So this demo is on logging, so it's going to focus on the part of what happens. We have a great experience writing pipelines, and this is focusing on what happens after you write those pipelines. So how do you actually run them and the feedback you get. I spend my day, working on Dagger, using Dagger, and it's really hard to tell what's going on. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's in the middle, and there's no feedback on what's happening, why it's happening now, why the cache was busted. So I have here. Here's a small pipeline. This is an extract from our own Dagger pipelines. It doesn't matter really what it's doing. I just wanted like a snippet of the stuff we're running in production. So this is basically a simple pipeline that links the Node SDK. So here's the main. It starts with the Node.js base, which shows like from Node, do like a bunch of stuff, yarn install, and then linting. So typically we run this like this, run this pipeline, and here I get my, typical like logs and stuff is happening, and I just see line by line what's going on. With the new logging, right now the idea, so I don't know yet how it's going to integrate, but the current candidate is to use what you saw in the Marcos demo. So instead of running go run directly, I would wrap this in a Dagger run. And basically this is gonna like wrap your command in the Dagger CLI and basically kick off the logging. Unfortunately, I don't have that integrated yet. So instead, I'm running with a different SDK where like you can instruct the SDK, and right now it's 2 environment variables, but that should be in the code, to actually write a journal of what's going on, like events.log. And this basically will serialize all the events that are happening, and then I can feed it back into the Dagger CLI, and it's going to reload the events and basically play them back in real time. So I actually already run this before, and so I'm just going to do a Dagger replay of demo node. Okay, so that's the node. So that's the UI basically. I have a top panel with basically the list of tasks going on, and on the left, the bottom one, it's the current selection. So you see my cursor is moving automatically. It's in follow mode, and follow mode means that it's trying to follow stuff that's happening, like basically showing me the interesting one. So it's completed, so it quit. Let me run this again. If I move my arrow keys, like you can see that I just switched to browse mode. So in browse mode, like it doesn't, it doesn't change automatically to other stuff. So I'm controlling like the stuff I'm seeing. So I can go and see like here was my from, and here I have my exec, and I can go back to yarn install, yarn lint. For instance, like here I can see my like my APK, and you can see like it's truncated. So I can like tab basically, and I go to the panel below. Like I can tab basically up and down. And once I tabbed in the view below, so it's not very legible, but like it's blue. So here I can use my arrow keys basically to scroll up or page up and stuff like that. So I can re-see the logs. So I can change to like this yarn install, and basically have a better understanding of what's going on. For every task, I have the status, like it run, how much time it took, the overall runtime, and things like that. So this run was not at all cached. So I can see all the timers here, but let me show like a cache run, disabling follow mode. So you can see like it already completed, only took 2 seconds, and only run like this resolve from node. But for instance, this exec was like cached, so not executed, there's no logs, and all those tasks were basically cached. This kind of helps, give visibility, but it's still not enough for dog fooding because it's way too many tasks. Like we have, Right now, I only had a lint, but in reality, in our own coding, we have 3 SDKs. Each SDK is a build, a test, a lint. Then we have the engine, same targets, build, test, and lint. There's a CLI. There's some internal stuff. So we end up, there's probably 15 targets, and each one of those targets has multiple containers. And so it's not visible at all. So I'm going to show you the part 2, which is groups. Part on the API, it's not really, flushed out at all. This was just to get it started, but this is another extract from our code base. It's doing like the linting, but this time on Node and on in Go. So so you can see like there's a very simple main here that does like in parallel like run Node.js and run Golang. And if I look, here's Node.js. So the important bit is that when I declare a container, like I have this new keyword group. And basically I can start a group and say, hey, like from this point on, this is like the Node.js group. And so I'm executing that stuff like from Node, then yarn install. And then I'm running lint here and build here. And I can take back base, so that Node.js group, and create a subgroup. So here I have a lint subgroup, and here I have a build subgroup. You can basically create a tree of groups. Like you start with a top one, like it could be SDK, and then you have another group which is Node, and another group which is lint, and so on and so forth. The API right now it's limited to container, but ideally this would work on a top level client object. So you can create, sub clients like, hey, here's a Node sub client, and then within that sub client, we create groups. Okay, so in short, Node and Go. Node is creating like a Node.js group with lint and build, and Go is creating another group called Go and a subgroup lint. So again, I've already run this before, so I'm just gonna replay the logs group. Okay. So okay, here you can see that basically because I had groups, like I can see them as a tree in the status here. So I have a Node.js group here. You can see my from node, and then there's this build subgroup, the lint subgroup, and go and so forth. Since it's those groups, basically with my hierarchies, I can just collapse and expand, like because it's too much data. There's actually a handy shortcut like to collapse everything. So I can just see Node and Go here running. So I can just expand, like if I'm interested in Node, I can see what's happening, and let me expand on the build. And those groups have a virtual status. So basically Node.js here, it appears as a task, and I have a status and timer. That's basically just summing up all the subtasks together. So I can get like an overall runtime for everything related to Node, and then an overall runtime for build and lint. So with this, basically, like if I was running this on an entire code base, we would see, one top level group for engine, one top level group for SDK, and we'd be able to like see the runtimes and logs for that part. There's a third part of the demo. Let me share. How do I change that? Okay. Can you see my entire screen now?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
The third and last part of the demo, like I was doing replay. There's other stuff, like there's cool stuff that we can do with those events files. At first I thought they were going to be temporary, but actually there's interesting information. So the replay, I'm going to do like a Dagger graph. And here basically this generated like an entire graph of like what happened. And so if we go back, we can see that it started by copying all the basically it's importing like my the Dagger repo, then it's copying, and from that copy it's going into like Node.js and Go at the same time. And for instance, in Go, you can see like it's copying SDK go to slash, and in parallel, it's like sourcing the Golang image. And both of them basically are required by lint. So lint is waiting on both steps. Node is fairly more complex. So same thing, like copying SDK Node.js to slash. There's a from node in parallel, and then package JSON, yada yada, yarn install, creating the work there, the container, and then in parallel, like build and lint is happening. So I'm showing this not only because it's pretty cool, but also it shows like how complex it is to actually display those logs. Let me put back this at the same time. Like, if you look at those in parallel, like you would think that in Go we're actually doing from and then waiting for the from to do the copy and then linting. But the reality is that like this copy and this from are running in parallel, and lint here depends on both of them. And so when you're actually using like no logging at all, like just dumping that, sometimes you would see like from Go finishing and then Dagger doing nothing, and you wonder like why is it not running a linting command, and it's kind of infuriating. And with this, you can actually realize that it's not running lint because it's depending on your copy, and perhaps you change some file which invalidated a cache of local, and so lint is actually waiting for local to finish. And displaying the graph really helps to figure out like why is my why Dagger is being slow, what's going on, why why is my cache busted. Like, let's say that you were expecting for your install to run, but it's not running yet. And looking at this, you can actually figure out that it's up running because you're waiting for copy, because you're waiting for local, because like you busted the cache because you changed some file. So this viewer helps, but there's just so much you can do in a text-based approach, and really like there's a lot of information in Dagger. Like, this was really a quick and dirty approach, but ideally here you would be able to see, the timers, the cache status, filter, like maybe, this graph would be potentially huge running the entire CI. So probably need a way to collapse and expand the subgroups. And I think, let's see. Yep, I think that's it for the demo.